You're a mean one. You really are a heel. You're as cuddly as a cactus. You're as charming as an eel. Mr. Grinch, you're a bad banana. With the greasy black peel. You're a vile one. You got termites in your smile. You have all the bittersweetness of a seasoned crocodile. Mr. Grinch, you're a foul one. Friends you don't have. I wouldn't touch you with a 39 and a half foot pole. You're a monster. Your heart's an empty hole. You got garlic. You got garlic in your soul. All them smiles, homie, I turn up frowns. All them decorations, I tear them down. You can ask Max, I don't play around. Ayo. Who is this mean fellow with his skin all green and his teeth all yellow? What you so mad for? Halloween come around and we ain't knocking at your door, man. Let's roll everybody. Who is this mean fellow with his skin all green and his teeth all yellow? What you so mad for? Halloween come around and we ain't knocking at your door.
I am starving. Huh?
So Mr. Grinch does have an interesting morning routine. We are going to be creating the Grinch morning routine, guys, and here's the scenario. To create the Grinch morning routine diary, the scenario says, a lot of people struggle with organizing their morning schedule, especially people who work from home or people that are mostly home-based. For this reason, you'll need to develop a program that will record the morning routine of a person from 7 a.m. to 12 p.m. The program should record what the person does within the time frame, that is 7 a.m. to 12 p.m., within an hour gap, and then print out the recorded schedule back to the person. So what this means is we're going to be asking the users to enter their morning schedule from 7 a.m. to 12 p.m. with an hour gap interval between the times. So starting at 7 a.m., then going to 8 a.m., 9 a.m., 10 a.m., 11 a.m., and pretty much that it would be all because it's a morning routine. Once we get into 12 p.m., it will be afternoon. We can put that in there as well, but a morning routine would go from 7 to 11. So this way, the person would have his or her morning schedule organized, just like you saw Grinch's morning schedule, which was organized by his dog Max in the video clip you just watched. So how do we get to program such a scenario? Well, we have to break down the scenario. I always say that planning is very essential. You have to have a plan first. Whenever you're looking at a real-world scenario or a situation and you're trying to create a program system or software application that could be useful for that particular situation, then you always have to break down the situation, understand what is important, what is needed, what is required, what would be the output. So always go by what are the inputs and what are the outputs. It's as simple as that. So we're breaking down the scenario here and we're saying the following programming concepts needs to be included in the program. Obviously, we need to ask the user for their morning routine schedule. So we need to tell them, what do you do at 7 a.m.? What do you do at 8 a.m.? What do you do at 9 a.m.? And all of that information needs to be stored under something. And then we have to print back that information to them and say, oh, here's your morning routine diary that was just generated based on what you've entered. And to do so, we definitely need to have our basic Java syntax as we've already seen. We need to have a class, class and a class name. We need to have a main method to get the program running. We need scanner class for sure because we're going to be asking the user to enter information. And we definitely need to store that information under variables and data types. So you see that everything you've learned up until this stage in this lesson has to be applied and used to create this project, this Java project, based on the scenario we're given. So we're going to get programming this scenario, and to do so, you're going to have to open your Replit account, which I already mentioned in the intro video that you have to have. And so you just have to go in, sign into your Replit account, and then we're going to get creating our first mini Java program. And we're going to run it, see how it works, and yeah, so we're going to move on, guys, to the next part of this lesson. So once you have the Replit website open by searching out replit.com on your browser, you're going to need to click the login button. Remember, I have created a separate video that explains how to create an account on Replit. It's pretty simple and straightforward. So you have an account at this point, so click on login. If you don't, please go back to the previous video that I created of how to create an account. So I'm going to click on login, and when you click on login, it asks you if you want to log in with your email or username and password, and then you have to click on login. But I already have signed up with my Google account, so I'm just going to say continue with Google, and it automatically just opens up this main home screen for me on Replit, which you can see my username is in here. And once I'm logged in, or once you are logged in, you're going to see this home screen on your screen, and that means you're ready to get started. You're ready to start creating your Grinch morning routine diary. And the first thing you need to do is to click on create, because that's where we can get our program created. So click on the create button, which is at the top left. And you have to specify the template, so the type of programming language you'd be using to create this program. And obviously we're using Java, so if you just type in Java, it should appear. We're using just normal Java Replit. We're not using Java FX or Swing. We'll come to using those later on in our course. So click on Java Replit, and then the title would be called Grinch Morning Routine. Okay, so I already typed it in. So Grinch Morning Routine Diary. You just have to type that in. And then you are now ready to click on create REPL. This is set to public, so if you want to make it private, you have to power up. But again, remember that all these projects that we will be creating in our upcoming lessons are something that you would definitely save. You could also publish and keep as your portfolio that's going to be useful and helpful to you. But at some point in this course, I will be requesting for, and I'll be displaying, not just requesting, I'll actually be displaying the top projects that we have, the awesome and most unique projects that have been created from students that take this course, so that you can all have a look through and see how they've been in creativity and how they've been able to create such programs, and just for the point of showcasing excellent work, excellent programming work for people to see and provide opinions to. So we're going to click on create REPL. Once you've done the template and you've entered your title, it's always important to select a title. Never leave your title as just random in Replit. It's always good to give a meaningful title to your program. And so we're going to click on create REPL. Now we're ready to get programming. So it's going to give you this message if it's your first time using it. It's going to say welcome to the workspace, and it just basically explains to you how everything works. So you can just click next. It shows you the code editor, the area where you'll be creating your code or writing your code in, and it shows you the run button where you need to run your code to get it to work. And then it shows you the output of where you'd see the results of your code and how it works. And then finally it shows you the sidebar where you would see the name of your program, that is the name of your class in this case. And then lastly, it's going to show you if you want to invite someone. And I already mentioned this in our introduction video, and I said we are going to be having projects throughout this course, and each project is going to be containing or having a certain amount of points or marks. And if you achieve those points by having your program run successfully along with the points you've achieved in each quiz per lesson, if you reach the target, you get an award sent to you. And there was the parts where I mentioned during those projects, you can, chat with me if you need immediate help and you get stuck. I'm always available most of the time. So if I don't respond to you immediately, I'll definitely get the time to respond back to you. And so this is where the invite button comes in handy. You would have to click it and then invite me by putting my username, which I would make available at the end of every lesson. And you can even see my username right now on the screen. Right there, it states it actually, so you can also use that to invite me, and then I can, write me a message and say that I need some help here or I'm stuck here, and I'll do my very best to get back to you, because I really do want you to feel comfortable while you're coding and just understand what you're doing. So what we will do, obviously, is once you click the invite, it invites someone, and you can share your REPL or your code with someone else. So I'll click done with the whole showcase. And the beauty about using Replit is that you have automatically created a class. So the class is automatically created for you, and you have a main method, and you have the system.out.println output statement right there. So you can take out, the only thing you could take out to, get your program started would be just to remove this system.out.print statement, or you could just, sorry about that, or you could just delete what's enclosed in the quotation marks and put whatever statement you would want to have. That's pretty much the only thing, but everything's already set up. Now, when you actually have, I'm just going to dismiss this because this has to do with Grammarly, but when you actually have your Java software installed on your system, that is when you're using an actual Java integrated development environment. We call it a Java IDE, some sort of software that allows you to create Java programs like Eclipse or IntelliJ IDE. You would have to create the class yourself, and the class comes automatically with a main method unless you don't specify that you need a main method. So that would be later once you get a little bit more familiar with other kind of software to create Java. But for now, we're going to be using Replit because it's easy to set up and it just gets you started. It gives you the class. It already creates the class. It already has the main method. All you have to do is just specify and indicate what you want in the program, what you want to use, etc., the libraries that you need, the packages that you would import, and etc. So we cannot change. I don't advise you to change the name. I did mention you can put any name of your class if you're actually using a Java software, like I talked about Eclipse or IntelliJ IDE, or so many other more online softwares that are used to create Java. Because Replit is what we call an online compiler, so it is a website that basically allows you to create your code and run it. It has by default already created this class main, so it's not advisable for you to change it, because if you do, you would get a syntax error. The program would not be running. I think it's just the program wouldn't run because it's already built in to recognize main as the class name. So just keep the class name as it is, but everything else could change. You could also have other classes inside of your class, which again, I said we'll talk about later on. And that's the situation where you can give your own class name in that sense. But for the main, like the first class, would keep it as main because that's what it automatically is stored as. So what we're going to be doing first is remember the objective is we are supposed to be creating the Grinch morning routine diary. And this is supposed to record the morning routine of the user from 7 a.m. to 12 p.m., essentially 12 p.m. being the afternoon time that comes in. So what we're going to do is I will ask you to remove the statements that you have here enclosed in the quotation marks for the system.out.print. We do not need it, so you can just delete it instead of deleting the entire line, because we will actually display something. So we still need the system.out.println. So that's the output statement we're going to be using. But remember what I said was if you were going to ask the user for input, then you would need to have a scanner class. You would need to create a scanner object. So what we're going to do is let's go back to line 1 and hit enter so that the class main comes down. And I did talk about the fact that you had to import your scanner class from the utility package. So that's what we're going to do first. We're going to import the scanner class. So we're going to write import java.util.scanner. So this way we are importing the scanner class so we can be able to create the scanner object. Because if we don't do this, then we can't create the scanner object because we did not specify to the computer that we are using the scanner class. So I will import that, and this is how you import the scanner class. And don't forget to put the semicolon. Most statements or code lines in Java end with a semicolon, and you always have to have the semicolon there. It's just the way it works. Because if you don't have a semicolon, then it's not, it's going to give you a syntax error. Now, if you're really curious to see how this whole syntax works, this whole syntax thing works, I'm going to type in hello again back to just a statement. You don't need to do this. But if you really want to see how it works, if you click the run, so it's the first time you're running and it's going to do that celebration thing, which is really fun. You're going to see how the program runs. It's going to show you over here. And as you guys can see, it does show me hello right here. So that's the output of what we've just coded right here. So the first display statement, which is shown as hello. So we're going to, again, I'll just remove this. This was just an example for you to see your program run. Replit does indicate with an orange underline the statements that you perhaps have imported and have not yet used. And that's great because it tells you that you need to use those statements. So you have to use anything that you've imported. So we've imported the scanner class here. And what we're going to do is we're going to come into our main method. Remember, the public static void main string arguments is the main method that gets the program to run. And we're going to hit enter. Inside of the curly brace of this main method, where it starts and where it ends, we're going to be creating a scanner object. So we only need one scanner object to be able to receive user input. So we're going to do scanner, we'll call this object obj. You can call it anything you want. And the syntax, as we've already seen in our lesson, is we have to put an equal sign and then write new scanner. And then in parentheses, we have to indicate system.in. So this means we're receiving input. And then close this with a semicolon. Now, inside of our parenthesis right here in the system.out.println, we are going to be asking, well, not asking, but let's welcome the user to this program and welcome them to this Grinch morning routine diary. And then right after that, we're going to get into having a conversation with the user. So we're trying to create a conversational morning routine diary that's asking questions about their morning routines from 7 a.m. all the way to 11 a.m., getting towards 12 p.m. And then just kind of jotting all of that down and telling them this is all what you've indicated you wanted to do, or you're going to do, or what you usually do. So they have it like on record. So it's like again, like I said, it's a routine diary. So what we're going to do is we're going to print a message and we're going to say, welcome to the Grinch morning routine diary. So this is the welcome message. Remember that the print statement, which is the system.out.println, is basically used to print out anything that you want to appear on the screen. So the first thing we want to appear is a welcome message. So we're going to say, welcome to the Grinch, and we're going to say morning routine diary. Okay. And this is the message that's going to be appearing on the screen. And if you would like, you can actually run this program and just look at the output so that you can see what it will look like. And as you can see, it does show the output right here. So it does print an output welcoming the user to the morning Grinch morning routine diary. Now, the next thing we want to do is we're going to tell the user what the program's going to be doing. And so we're going to say, let's get your morning routine activity registered. And then we'll start by making this program more personalized, more warm to the user, just trying to get them into the conversational mode of what they usually do in their mornings, and then registering all that information and printing it back to them as output again, so they can have it on record, like I said, or they can have a look at what they've just compiled as their morning routine. So we're going to go with another system.out.print statement. So I'm going to write system.out.print. You can put a print, you can put println. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just indicate saying, let's get your morning routine activity registered. So let's get your morning routine activity registered. Okay. Activity, and then we'll say registered. Okay. And then once we do that, we'll close this with a semicolon. Remember that we always have to close everything that we are typing into Java has to be closed, and most of the lines are closed with semicolons at the end. And it's very important because if you don't, you get a syntax error. So we have a second print statement that's going to appear on the screen. And if you run it again, you will see that the second print statement would appear after welcoming the user, which would appear now. And then afterwards, we want to start asking the user some questions. So as you can see, it does appear right here. You can see it says, welcome to the Grinch morning routine diary. And then it says, let's get your morning routine activity registered. And, and that's pretty much it. So that's getting our statements printed out. The next thing we want to do is to start to make this a bit more personalized. So we're going to be asking the user about their name. So the first thing we're going to do is a system.out.print again ln, and the question is, what is your name? So we want to make it personalized so that once we start asking questions about what do you do at 7 a.m., what do you do at 8 a.m. and 9 a.m., we want to be using the person's name to ask those questions. That just makes it feel more homely to the user. So I'm just going to remove this because I have a Grammarly software that's also attached to my Present that basically checks spelling, so it doesn't recognize programming syntax, so as you may have seen. All right, so the first question is, what is your name? We put a question mark and we put a semicolon at the end. So we're asking the user for their name. And now we're going to be creating, remember what we said, we're going to declare a string. and the variable that's going to be storing the username for us to later use in this program. So remember what we talked about data types. We talked about two. We said a string is basically used to store text-like information, and integer is used to store number-like information. So right now we're not requiring numbers for name. So we asked for name, and therefore the name that will be entered is made up of letters. So we're going to be creating a variable, and we're going to declare the string data type. So that's because we're requiring text-like information. And the variable, we're going to call this as just like name, because it's the most reasonable variable name that we can give to be able to store name. You have to give a reasonable variable name or a meaningful variable name that actually stores the information based on what you're asking the user. So it's only meaningful to create a variable called name that's going to store the name. So we have declared the data type as string, and the variable name is called name. We put an equal sign. And then don't forget that we have to write the name of our scanner object, which is obj, with the correct scanner object method to receive string input, which means text-like information. And the correct scanner object to receive that kind of input is next line. Sorry, it's supposed to be lowercase n. Next line, or you can say next. So that's the right type of scanner method that's going to be receiving input from the user whenever you specify the data type as a string, so which means you require text-like information from the user. Now, once that is done, the user can now enter their name. The next question we're going to be asking them, or the next statement rather, before we start asking questions, we will say, nice to meet you, whoever this person is. So we don't know who the person is, and that's why the person's name is going to be stored under this variable called name. So we're going to be printing out a statement, and we'll say system.out.print, and don't forget to put a dot here. So .out.print, you can put print or println. I'm just always used to doing println just for the sake of the next line. And then I'll just type in this statement saying nice to meet you, and we don't know who this person is, so we'll give a space. And then in Java, what you normally would do is whenever you want to use a variable name, and this variable name, remember, is storing something that the user is going to enter, which in this case is the name of the user, and we want to be able to display it, say nice to meet you, and put the person's name. So if this person enters the name is Michael, it will say nice to meet you, Michael. So in Java, what you have to do is you have to come out. All programming languages do instruct you to come out of your speech quotation marks, because what you have inside or enclosed between the quotation marks is a string statement. So you have to come out of that, and you have to use this sign, which is a plus sign. It's actually called concatenation sign, which just joins your string. That means your statement that's enclosed in the quotation marks with whatever variable you're specifying after. So we use a plus sign in Java to say that we want the computer to display this statement first and then display the name of the person. So what's going to happen is, and then I'm going to close this with a semicolon, don't forget. So what will actually happen is it will say nice to meet you, whoever the person was. So if the person enters any name, Alex, Miriam, anything, it's just going to say nice to meet you, Alex, nice to meet you, Miriam, nice to meet you, Alicia. So the name that the person enters will be stored under this variable name called name. Now let's do a quick run. Let's see how everything looks like so far. So in our quick run, we're just going to see, so it says, as you can see, it tells us, welcome to the Grinch morning routine diary. Let's get your morning routine activity registered. And it's asking me for my name. So if I put my name in there, it says, nice to meet you, Alicia. So that's exactly what we're doing. If I put another name, so I'm running it for the second time, test run. So you just have to click the run button. And if you have gotten all your codes in correctly, then everything should run without an error. Now it's asking me for what is your name. So if I put another name and I put Nazha, for example, and I run it and I hit enter, it just basically tells me nice to meet you, Nazha. So you realize that the name changes according to whatever name the user is entering. And that is the reason why we said that the variable name is used to store whatever name the user enters eventually. So we've gotten these couple of codes down. So now we're ready to start asking them about their morning routine, starting from what they do at 7 a.m. So we're going to tell them, give them a slight bit of an instruction.